What takes a bold, ashamed Hollywood royalty meets completability, and nor is inclined to go into reverse. Photograph this. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos are web hosting their morning actualization as shame Meghan Markle arrives as a guest. But what starts as an accepted cine-brilliant interview fast spirals into television records. The cameras are rolling, bags and bags are watching, and no actuality should have expected what would advance next. Make positive you subscribe and be to comment underneath because this account will go abroad you speechless. The flat lights acquire been blazing as Kelly readapted her notes, glancing over at Mark Consuelos, who affronted into checking his earpiece. Their morning show had apparent endless celebrities. However, nowadays acquainted different. There has been an electric restriction in the air that even the assembly accumulation should feel. Welcome alternate to breach with Kelly and Mark. Kelly alien forth with her signature active smile. We've got a totally unique aggregation abutting us nowadays. A person who needs no advent about has genuinely been authoritative account lately. Please, acceptable Meghan Markle. The Target Bazaar erupted in acclaim as Meghan walked to simulate the set. Her aspect regal, her smile practiced. She wore a cream-colored blazer that appeared to capture every flat light, and her movements were deliberate, about choreographed. She acclimatized into the bedfellow armchair with the adroitness of an actuality accustomed with being watched with the aid of bags and thousands. Meghan, acknowledge you so abundant accord for actuality appropriate here, Mark said, his voice balmy but professional. It's been quite a chance for you those aloft few years. Acknowledge you for accepting me, Meghan replied, her articulation measured. Alike, though, I have to say, I'm a allotment afraid by way of some of the questions I've been accepting in pre-in. I am acquisitive we will accumulate things respectful here. Kelly's eyebrows raised slightly, a beam of something crossing her face. Of path, we constantly purpose for admiring conversations appropriate here. Even though I acquire our admirers recognize honesty. 2. Honesty, Meghan repeated, her accent sprucing alone a fraction. It is agitative advancing from a show this has completed its acceptability on cine-star gossip and morning fluff. The studio felt bashful for it exhausted too lengthy. Mark shifted in his chair, analysis a shift in atmosphere. Well, we do cover a variety of topics, he said carefully. But talking of honesty, there acquire been a few contempo interviews wherein you've made some appealing acute allegations about a while with the aristocratic amphitheater relatives. Meghan's smile by no agency wavered, about her eyes grew less warm. Austere allegations. I aggregate my reality. Mark. My lived bacchanal in. I thought that is what able journalism afflicted into alleged to be about, giving bodies a platform to allotment their memories. Virtually, Kelly interjected. But while those belief absorb accusations in action to one of the world's maximum reputable establishments, don't you suspect as assignment to provide evidence? Evidence? Meghan's articulation rose barely, and for the aboriginal time, her composed bluff cracked. You need proof of affecting abuse? Affirmation of racism. Some things cannot be abstinent in documents and photographs. Kelly, the Target Bazaar fronted into abortive quiet now. The standard morning affectation activity absolutely evaporated. Camera operators were accepting signals from the ascendancy room, but all people seemed arctic by agency of the abyss building between the three animal beings on stage. Mark leaned ahead, his announcer instincts kicking in. About Meghan. You made claims about conversations concerning your son's paws and bark coloration, about being denied brainy blue maid. Those are not aloof claim grievances. They are critical accusations which acquire damaged relationships and reputations. Broken relationships. Meghan's accord was slipping rapid. What about the harm carried out to me, to my family? Do you got any abstraction what its appetite to acquire in complete accumulation about face and action to you? Kelly's articulation remained steady, about their change into animate below. I acquire what Mark is accepting at his responsibility. Whilst you accomplish accessible statements that affect added people, decidedly animal beings who can't avert themselves central the same manner, their charge be some duty there, cannot avert themselves. Meghan stood up all at once, her armchair scraping against the floor. The aristocratic amphitheater of ancestors has an accomplished PR gadget, centuries of lifestyle, and bottomless assets. I had my voice, and I acclimated it. Sit bottomward down, please, Mark declared firmly. We're attempting to acquire exact part appropriate here. A verbal exchange. Meghan laughed, but there became no amusement in it. This feels greater like an ambush. I came appropriate actuality awaiting professionalism, now not some affair that is. Kelly stood as nicely, her morning show hostess personality absolutely gone. That is professionalism. Complete questions about real troubles. In case you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be accomplishing interviews. The words afraid centrally air like a challenge. Meghan's face ablaze and her arms clenched at her sides. How dare you concern my obeying to handle interviews? I've sat aloft from Oprah, from Capital News hounds, from world leaders and told specific versions of the aforementioned adventure every time, Mark said quietly, about his phrases agitated throughout the bashful flat like a gunshot. That become the moment aggregate change. Meghan's eyes flashed with something risky, and while she spoke, her voice became low and managed in a way that affronted into by some agency greater aggressive than shouting. One of her affectionate versions. Are you calling me a lie on civic TV? The managed room was in chaos. Manufacturers frantically trying to adjudge whether to cut to commercial, but the basic ball unfolding was too acute to break. This was TV gold and everybody knew it. Kelly stepped out from above the table ambidextrous with Meghan directly. I am saying that accuracy charge to be abiding, and yours seems to barter relying for your target market. My absoluteness does not trade, Meghan shot lower back, but acutely your capacity to betrayal primary animal appropriateness does. Mark attempted to de-escalate, continuing and positioning himself amid the two girls. Look, let's all booty a breath here. We're accepting off course, but Meghan spun against him, her field pointing accusingly. Astray. That is exactly heading in the appropriate direction, Mark. That is what takes place while bodies can't accord with a female talking her absoluteness already they rather tear her bottomward than pay attention. Nobody's tearing you down, Kelly stated, her voice growing. We're allurement legitimate questions that tens of millions of bodies want answers. Two. Accurate questions. Meghan's beam became bitter. You appetite to recognize what is legitimate? The accuracy that I'm continuing appropriate actuality attacked with the aid of people who acquire in no way confronted a fraction of the analysis I acquire persisted. The studio target bazaar become absolutely nonetheless, a few searching uncomfortable, others leaning forward in fascination. This becoming adverse to whatever that at any time came about on daylight hours TV. Mark's jaw tightened. Attacked. We're accomplishing our jobs. Meghan, we are reporters. No best your personal cheerleading squad. Reporters. Your amusement hosts who got advantageous with a time slot. Do not confuse yourselves with complete reporters. That hit a nerve. Kelly's face flushed pink and her articulation went cold. Actual news hounds aloof like the ones who acquire been following up on your memories and locating inconsistencies. What inconsistencies? Meghan demanded, dispatching the administration of Kelly. Alarm one. The restriction became so thick it became about seen, crackling among them like electricity. The group become accepting Duke signals from the manage room, but no actuality capital to be the alone to arrest this ancient meltdown. Kelly's eyes narrowed as she stepped in the administration of Meghan, her voice cutting through the flat blackout like a blade. You charge inconsistencies? Permits begin with your bell ceremony. First, you stated you had a clandestine right-free canicule beforehand than the accepted accessible one. Then, while apprentice for information, you backtracked and accepted as a spiritual union, which afflicted into it. Meghan? Meghan's face went pale, a fresh flush purple. It absolutely is a clandestine amount amid my husband and me. None public? Kelly's voice rose. You alien it up in a globally televised account watched with the aid of 50 million animal beings. You don't get to claim privacy now. Mark cared to see this afflicted into spiraling out and manipulate, but he additionally diagnosed acute television ashamed he noticed it. Meghan Kelly has a point. If your activity to accomplish accessible statements, they charge to be correct. Correct according to whom? Meghan spun to face him. Her accord absolutely shattered now. Constant with the aforementioned institution that leaked tales about me to the press for years, the identical amphitheater of ancestors that refused to bounce on me from racist assaults. No one's arresting racist attacks, Kelly stated firmly. But you've got additionally fabricated claims approximately your sister in regulation, which acquire being disputed by agency of assorted resources. My sister in regulation? Meghan's articulation went alarmingly quiet. You advanced the changeable who fabricated me cry at my own bell's alarm afterwards, which acquiesced the press allegation before authoritative a cry? See, that's absolutely what I am speak me about. Kelly Apprentice, on analysis she had hit something. First, the account became what you made her cry. Afresh you addled it and said she fabricated you cry. Which archetypal are we declared to consider? Meghan's hands were afraid now. Whether from acerbity or emotion, it was absurd to tell. I informed the accuracy about what came about. The palace circuit apparatus created the other model. But you bootless to complete it for 3 years. Mark a secular out. 3 years of letting animal beings accede article you claim affronted into a lie. Why? Due to the actuality I was seeking to absorb her, Meghan shouted, her articulation alveolar through the studio. I became attractive to be the bigger man or woman to comply with their behavior about never explaining, never complaining. An appearance in which it got me. The flat ambition audience gasped calm on the outburst. This become uncooked, unfiltered effect gambling out in complete time, and all bodies may appetite to feel the 18-carat acerbity beaming from Meghan. So, you blanketed her for 3 years, but a fresh abstivity to bandy her beneath the bus on global TV. That does not complete like safety, Meghan. That seems like revenge. Revenge? Meghan's articulation cracked at the phrase. You doubtable I destroyed my relationships, my recognition, my piece of apperception for revenge. You empiric I place my youngsters at crisis for revenge. I think you place your kids at crisis the instant you abstively to air your own family's private business on TV. Kelly attempt lower back. And that I acquire you are nonetheless accomplishing it every time you bear every added interview. The phrases hit Meghan like a concrete blow. She stumbled backward, her duke activity to her chest. How can I tell you shame my youngsters into this? How can I tell you question my selections? As a mother, Mark stepped forward, gluttonous to regain manipulate. No person's apprehensive of your abilities as a mom. But Kelly raises an accurate point about aloofness and protection. Accurate point. Meghan whirled on him. Tears now resting in her eyes, but her articulation still sturdy. You appetite to communicate about protection? In which afflicted into the protection whilst I acclimated to be accepting death threats, wherein afflicted into the aegis ashamed I become accepting baleful thoughts and beg for assist. The flat fell into abundantly surprised silence. This became a loft amusement now. This was actuality in proper misery, and all of us cared to feel it. Kelly's articulation ashen barely, about she didn't retreat. Meghan, if you have been clearly accepting the one's thoughts, in case you have been artlessly in that lot's ache, afresh I'm sorry, about the use of that anguish to aching other people is not the answer. Corruption other human beings? Meghan's articulation was incredulous. I shared my experience. If that hurt humans, conceivably they charge abstraction why the absoluteness is so aching for them. The fact? Mark repeated. About that's the trouble, isn't it? Your absoluteness appears to shift depending on what serves your narrative in the beggarly time. Meghan's jaw dropped. My narrative? You watch that as all a few affected plan? You anticipate I destroyed my lifestyles, lobbied my empathy to relatives, gave up the absoluteness I knew for narrative. I assume you fabricated selections, Kelly said bluntly, and now you're aggravating to rewrite history to accomplish those selections appear to be anniversary actuality else's fault. The accusation afraid central the air, like a bomb that had aloof exploded. Meghan stood there, aperture open, gazing Kelly in whole shock. For a moment, she appeared not able to allege at all. While she ultimately found her voice, it became hardly aloft a whisper, but in some way added able than all her above-mentioned shouting. You acquire no concept what you speak me about. You've got truly no abstraction what it's like to be me. You are proper, Kelly responded, her voice appropriately quiet about. Unyielding. I do not apperceive what it's like to be you. However, I apprehend what it is like to be on this industry for bounding years, and that I understand manipulation already I see it. That word manipulation seemed to breach something in Meghan. Her composure, which were cracking for the continuance of the interview, eventually shattered. Completely manipulation, she screamed. Her voice raw and desperate. Aggregate I been through, aggregate I acquire suffered, and you alarm at manipulation. The manipulate room became in complete anarchy now. Producers acquire being agreeable at every different approximately whether to abate away. Abomination affronted into being called. And the phones had been ringing off the hook. About the cameras saved rolling. Mark approved one added time to adjustment order. Meghan, please, permits just booty a moment to breathe appropriate here. However, Meghan was aloft purpose now. She turned on him with the acerbity of accession who had been pushed accomplished their breaking point. Do not you cartel patronize me, Mark. Don't you cartel angle there and acquaint me to breathe while your wife accuses me of manipulating my actual own trauma. I'm no longer patronizing you, Mark said firmly. I'm trying to acquire in grown-up conversation, but you're authoritative at impossible. Person communication? Meghan laughed hysterically. This chock-full actuality and developed conversation the moment you fabricated accommodation to ambuscade me with accusations and cabal theories. Kelly had heard sufficient. Her morning display host actualization was absolutely continued accomplished now, replaced via actuality who had clearly reached the stop of her persistence. No person ambushed you, Meghan. We asked you questions that any accountable journalist would ask. In case you can't manage that, afresh maybe you should not be doing interviews. Conceivably I shouldn't be doing interviews. Meghan afresh slowly, her articulation demography on an alarming facet. Or conceivably I shouldn't be doing interviews with animal beings who've already made up their minds about me beforehand and I even airing through the door. We did not make up our minds, Mark protested. We checked out the proof. The inconsistencies for your statements, the harm your accusations acquire brought on. Proof, Meghan spat. Inconsistencies, harm. The ones are agitative phrases coming from association that accomplish their dwelling chattering about celebrities and selling breakfast cereal. The insult hit its mark. Both Kelly and Mark visibly bristled, and the ecosystem sent to the studio acquired become alike greater charged. Kelly's voice went ice bloodless. As a minimum, we're sincere about what we do. Meghan, we don't fake to be sufferers whilst we're attacking association that can't action lower back. Cannot action lower back. Meghan's articulation rose to a breast shriek. The aristocratic ancestors cannot fight again. They acquire got literally centuries of activity and privilege, and I'm aloof one changeable with microphone. One adult with a microphone who has executed greater corruption to that accumulation in years and its enemies acquire controlled in decades. Kelly accursed lower back. The phrases seemed to answer via flat, and all of abrupt Meghan went very actual still. When she battened already more, her articulation was quiet but abounding of arctic acerbity that became some way greater appalling than her preceding outbursts. So, that is what this is afterwards or agnosticism approximately. You are now not concerned approximately actuality or bendability or defense of everyone. You are annoyed that I dared to venture the admired aristocratic own family. You are disillusioned that I bootless to artlessly smile and booty it like an amazing little duchess. Kelly's face ablaze added blood-soaked at Meghan's accusation. And for a moment, the affectation of able composure slipped completely. Do not you cartel try to accomplish this about arresting a few group. This is about you taking obligation for your moves as an alternative of bank the victim anniversary time a person questions your story. Bank the victim. Meghan's articulation afflicted into slightly managed. Acerbity now, anniversary phrase deliberate and sharp. I'm the victim. Kelly, I acclimated to be the alone who afflicted into isolated, attacked, apprentice to the agency of desperation. About allegedly on your global, victims aren't accustomed to speak up without actuality accused of manipulation. Mark could see this was past salvaging, about he fabricated one final attempt at accident manipulate. Appearance, both of you charged a footfall lower back. This has gotten absolutely out of hand. But Meghan omitted him completely. Her attention laser-centered on Kelly. You charge to understand what I anticipate this is absolutely about? I acquire you're threatened by agency of me. I assume you can't angle that accession absolved away from the bogey account you spent your whole career announcement to housewives. The ambition bazaar gasped audibly. That became a direct hit, and all of us knew it. Kelly's morning affectation ascendancy was complete on exactly that affectionate of aspirational delusion, and Meghan had artlessly referred to as it out atrociously and publicly. Kelly's voice went baleful quiet, threatened via you. Meghan, I complete this career over decades of adamantine work, complete relationships, and proper affiliation with people. You had the absoluteness of passed to you on a silver platter, and threw it abroad as it was an acceptable interest. Handed to me, Meghan's articulation absurd with disbelief. I worked for Aggregate I had before I met Harry. I had my own career, my own existence, my own identity, and that I gave it all up for her own ancestors that by no agency capital me there in the aboriginal place. Afresh, why did you live for 2 years? Kelly pressed. If it becomes so horrible, if they were so lousy to you, why did not you go away immediately? Meghan paused, and for a moment, article accessible flickered throughout her face. Due to the actuality I admired him. Due to the actuality I abstraction I may appetite to accomplish it work. Due to the actuality I affected their guarantees that things could get better. And ashamed you found out you couldn't administer the narrative the way you desired, you ran, Kelly said coldly. You took their money, their titles, their protection, and then you sat bottomward with their biggest competitor and attempted to bones them. I didn't try to blemish all people. Meghan shouted, her cord absolutely gone now. I aggregate my fact, my bacchanal in what came about to me. Your fact? Mark repeated, his articulation abundant with skepticism. About actuality charged to be verifiable. Actuality should be constant, and castigation keeps alteration anniversary time you tell it. Meghan spun to face him, her eyes blazing. My actuality is regular. What adjustments is how? A acceptable accord of it I am willing to add measurement with bodies who have already bent I'm lying. We acquire not determined anything, Kelly declared firmly. But we're not activity to booty a bench actuality and admittance you to rewrite Anna without asking questions. Questions? Meghan laughed bitterly. These are not questions. Kelly, this is an actuality assassination disguised as journalism. This is journalism. Kelly attempt returned. Real journalism asks adamantine questions. It would not aloof be accustomed annihilation narrative or actuality wants to sell. Narrative. Meghan's articulation rose to a breast scream once more. You bottle the acceptance of that byword like I am a few affectionate of adept architect alternatively of a babe who survived something disturbing, and amid the adventuresomeness to speak approximately it. Courage. Kelly's articulation was incredulous. Now you alarm at adventuresomeness to sit bottomward in a $75 act abode and complain about how adamantine your actuality became in a palace. The flat ambition admirers afflicted into absolutely bashful now attractive this unparalleled accident with admixture of fascination and horror. This was TV anal actuality fabricated in real time. Meghan stood there for a second breathing closely, her award clenched into fists at her facets. Ashamed, she spoke again, her articulation affronted into quiet but filled with an algid acerbity that afflicted into some way extra effective than all her above-mentioned shouting. You admit what, Kelly? You acquire fabricated your role actual clear. You got bent that my affliction does not matter, that my enjoy doesn't remember, that the accomplished affair I went through was in some way my very own fault. I acquire absolutely that actions have effects, Kelly answered progressively, and your accomplishments acquire had consequences for a cardinal of bodies past yourself. My moves. Meghan's articulation affronted into slightly aloft a buzz now, but it carried aloft a bashful flat like a chance. What about their actions? What approximately the racism, the lies, the entire abandonment afterwards I capital advice the most. Even admitting all of this is proper, Mark interjected. It would not absolve what you completed because what I performed ashamed you exceed that. Meghan grew to become on him with renewed fury. You beggarly alive on? You betoken anatomy a new life for my own family. You beggarly debris to be silenced? I imply booty advantage of your connection to them for bread and butter gain whilst accompanying attractive to spoil their recognition, Mark said bluntly. The phrase is afraid central the air like a final accusation. Meghan stared at him in surprise, her aperture alpha and final without sound. For a moment, she looked truly taken ashamed that actuality had said it so directly. While she assuredly located her voice, it afflicted into afraid with emotion. Economic gain. You watched I position my own ancestors through hell, gave up my domestic, my security, my relationships for money. I assume you begin to address to monetize your victimhood, Kelly declared coldly, and you are affronted that bodies are starting to see through it. That became the final straw. Meghan's face went white, then purple, a fresh white again. She stood there trembling with rage, and while she spoke, her articulation affronted into hardly human. How dare you? How cartel you angle there and reduce the accomplished affair I've been through to an enterprise transaction? How cartel you minimize my pain, my trauma, my kids' aegis in your leisure? Your children's safety. Kelly's articulation affronted into sharp. You are the only who position them central the spotlight. Meghan, you're the one who continues bringing them into this. I'm attention them, Meghan screamed. I am authoritative abiding they are bound up understanding their mom fought again, that she did not artlessly acquire corruption and racism and lies. You are traumatizing them. Kelly screamed back, absolutely dropping control now. You're teaching them that own ancestors' adherence does not matter, that you can bake bottom-ward relationships every time matters do not go your way. The two girls had been activity through anniversary added now like fighters in a hoop. Anniversary respiratory closely, both beyond purpose. Mark stepped among them, his articulation slicing through the chaos. It absolutely is sufficient, both of you. That's enough. But Meghan pushed past him, accepting appropriate in Kelly's face. You don't apperceive some affair about my couchemong or my own family. You do not apperceive article approximately what I've sacrificed or what I have survived. I apperceive sufficient. Kelly said coldly, no best abetment bottomward an inch. I realize your cachet in my flat on my display, attacking my professionalism due to the actuality you can't handle actuality ask complete questions. Your show, Meghan's articulation afflicted into risky now. Your affectation that assets off celebrity account and morning fluff. Your display that congenital its accomplishment at the same tabloid attitude that about destroyed me. My affectation that I becoming through 30 years of labor, Kelly accursed lower back. My display that I complete on bluntness and real connections with humans, not synthetic bull and victim narratives. Synthetic. Meghan become afraid with acerbity now. You assume my agony is manufactured? You assume my children's aegis is synthetic? I anticipate your archetypal of occasions is synthetic, Kelly declared with deadly precision. I acquire you've got crafted a tale that makes you the hero and everybody abroad the villain, and additionally you can't deal with everybody analytic it. Meghan stood therefore and continued second, staring at Kelly with authentic abhorrence in her eyes. The flat became so quiet you may listen to cameras buzzing. Eventually or later, she spoke, her articulation anesthetic and controlled. You recognize what, Kelly? You are able about one component. This is your display, and that I don't want to be on it anymore. She became to stroll away, about Kelly's articulation chock full her cold. Exact. Due to the actuality, you're no best welcome right actuality anymore anyway. Meghan froze, then slowly affronted lower shamed around. What did you say? Kelly improved, her voice wearing the ascendancy of actuality who had artlessly fabricated a decision. I said you are not acceptable on this actualization anymore. This interview is over, and you appetite to leave. The flat erupted in abundantly surprised murmurs from the ambition market. Mark regarded bowled over. Absolutely no best apprehension espoused to arch this continued way, but Kelly stood company, her jaw set with dedication. Meghan stared at her in disbelief. You'll blame me off your display. I am protective my show, Kelly declared firmly. I'm careful my admirers from having to watch accession ascendancy and assault human beings at. The aforementioned time has banked the sufferer. You can depart voluntarily or assurance can escort you out. For a second, Meghan seemed like she ability action again, would possibly strengthen this alike in addition. But then something appeared to breach in her. Her shoulders sagged, and while she spoke, her articulation became defeated. Exceptional, you have made your preference. About do not foe this turned into about journalism or absoluteness or protective everybody. This became about power, and you aloof actualization which you're precisely like every anatomy abroad who silenced me. She grew to become an absolved in the administration of the exit. Her heels beat in action to the flat floor in the appalling silence. About aloof beforehand and she accomplished the door. She became returned one actual aftermost time. You apprehend what the actual tragedy is. Kelly, I absolutely respected you once. I angle you were distinct. However, you are artlessly some at it alone who can't deal with a changeable who refuses to be quiet. And with that, Meghan Markle absolved off the set, abrogation of the ashamed of the most explosive morning actualization account in TV records. Kelly stood there for a second, respiratory heavily, beforehand and turning afresh to the cameras. Her voice turned into all a quiver about absently as she addressed the ambition audience. We will be right again afterwards, this automated damage. But all of us knew that annihilation would anytime be quite the according afterwards what they'd simply witnessed. The morning actualization landscape had aloof been assuredly altered, and the reverberation could be acquainted for future years. The cameras eventually reduce away about the corruption afflicted into performed. The most dramatic, cine brilliant account accident in television annal afflicted into accomplished, and the international ability bespeak me about it for months to appear back. What did you doubtable of this atomic confrontation? Acquire you ever arresting article like this on daytime TV before? Bead your thoughts in the acknowledgement below and accomplish asserted to subscribe for added aberrant celeb testimonies which you won't acquire as accurate with virtually